Sauron has shaved and straightened his hair, then he is killed at his own coronation by Adar. Well, not really, cause it begins, as always, with a flashback, this time to another previous incarnation of the Dark Lord. And as once with the countless Dracula film adaptations in which the recently destroyed Count returned again and again, the blood seeps through the earth and finds new life as primordial slime, and with a human sacrifice, then also as a human being. Namely, Halbrand, as he is known from Season 1, whose backstory is told here over a distance of exaggerating 20 minutes. And here, too, you can see the typical things that are part of this series. Beautiful moods, a visible size, but then also the ideal example for long-winded build-up, which, as here, doesn't deliver anything new besides the first scene. The rest could really be guessed by everyone and is simply expressing what was known before. If they had compressed that to 10 minutes, it would actually have been a nice, surprising start. The elf Elrond is worried about the power of the 3 elven rings because he is not sure whether they were influenced by Halbrand, that is Sauron, during the forging, and jumps into the sea as his king does not share this view and would rather use the rings. Overall, the darker atmosphere of the second season of the most expensive streaming series becomes clear quite quickly and shows the biggest difference to the previous first season. For example, with Sauron, who surrendered as a king of the Southlands instead of claiming his rights as a powerful magician. This feels a bit strange, but is supposed to be explained by the first scene, and that Sauron has not yet reached the climax of his power. Here, still a strange move. Unfortunately, little has been thought up for Nori and the White Wizard, presumably Saruman, and so they slender through the wasteland and talk about homesickness and are joined by her friend Maxi. Briefly summarized, the only thing that happens in these next 20 minutes is that you learn that the rings may be dangerous and that the dark side wants to use them. Just like the Elven King. And so this theme continues through the series. Little real plot, many stretched out scenes, thus idle time where it would not have been necessary. After all, they could have applied the scissors on their own, since the episodes were long anyway at about 65 minutes, so that they would have been somewhere about 50 minutes after the most necessary cuts. Shortly before the elves have to leave Middle-earth, their rings are united and the tree starts to bloom again. And once again, the solution of a scene comes directly on its build-up, and thus it is very weak. Why did they save the time here? So if you build up a tension, then you should at least keep it for some time, in my eyes. But this shows that dramatic structure is not the core competence of the series, nor was it before. Because at that time, only one single question led us through the entire season. So, which of the 2 strangers is Sauron? And that was more than we get here. And Galadriel, the main character, is shown praying in front of her brother's shrine instead of giving another insight on her character, but probably they want to leave her as bold as she has been. The strange opposite of this is again Sauron, who as Halbrand is allowed to have a lot of emotions and is therefore more approachable as a villain than the always emotionless Galadriel. Sauron wants to forge more rings, but he needs the elven blacksmith Celebrimbor for it. The current ring bearers see this and destruction in visions, which now forms the much too weak, thin plotline. At least there are still Sauron's dark magic followers, the unknown wizard who previously referred to himself as the White One, so he's probably Saruman, whereby he is played as if he was surely Gandalf. They want to destroy him, and unfortunately, again, a very weak plot among the dwarfs, in which Prince Durin rebels against his father's decisions and is banished because of it. The dwarfs are one of my favorite characters, both in terms of characteristics as well as the location or their appearance. So it's all the more sad that the assumingly best parts for me are so weak in the story. And there is one of the worst as well, because the prince is now bullied at work, and so the whole dwarf vibe is gone, because this is a fantasy story. What is the bullying plot doing in there? What's next? Elrond's trilogy? Are there really no topics for the individual tribes to build an exciting thread? And of course, there's a lot of chatting again. You talk and talk around all the familiar topics. There's hardly any real action, and apart from the desert scenes and the headhunters, there is nothing new in world building. And so, after the first 3 episodes, far too little happened, and they needed far too much time even for that. It's good that they develop their own pace, stylistics, but only through audience success and satisfaction they can interest enough to be maintained so that the planned total of 5 seasons will be made. And will it last so long when so much idle time is offered? At the beginning of the 2nd season, one is still curious whether the superlative most expensive series of all time is true and whether it offers enough show values. At the latest, with the 3rd season, it will become clear whether there is still real interest, and that there will be at least 3 seasons just for reasons of prestige is almost given, and only if the ratings were extraordinarily bad they would possibly deviate from that. Or change something, although this would already have been absolutely necessary. Better stories, more suspense, more plots, more action, less talk and less running time. Unfortunately, a few effects are also strangely bad despite the immense budget, coupled with a dramatic pathos. This is unfortunately a moment you shouldn't remember. In addition, the new season shows that it has learned nothing from old mistakes. Everything is too empty and the dialogues have become noticeably worse. Every now and then you almost reach teen comedy level, like in the complete 3rd episode, which is simply underwhelming in all respects and can't even serve as a sleeping aid. And so, after the first 3 episodes, I would carefully and with hope in my heart subtract only half a star for the season and end up with 2.5 to 3 stars on a scale of 5. You don't really want to know what happens next. You don't expect any surprises either, and if they keep this up for the whole 8 episodes, then they drop clearly behind The Acolyte simply because the overall duration is longer, but the rest is at least as unsatisfying. Stay tuned for the next episode of Rings of Power and the stuff that is about to come on this channel.